Доброго дня,
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. UCMC starts its work, and it is important that we started with a discussion that we organized. The topic is citizen survey, how to avoid transformation of an instrument of direct democracy into manipulation. A survey was carried out on the day of elections. And in order to provide information to our citizens what it was, we invited two main specialists in the field. Today we have Volodymyr Paniotto, General Director of Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, and also Andriy Bychenko, Director of Sociological Service of Razumkov Centre. In order to avoid doubts about specialization of discussion, I would like to remind you that they were the members of the team of exit poll. They know about the figures, whether they are representative, what the methodology was adhered to in order to get representative data. And also, we would like to hear about their personal opinion about topics we discussed today. I would like to remind you that our broadcasting goes through UCMC platform and also on our Facebook page. We invite you to ask questions if you have them, and at the end of discussion, if we have time, we will voice these questions and speakers will be able to answer the questions. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let's start. First question I wanted to start with, this is a comprehensive question. What was the aim of the survey? Whether the power reached this aim? Who wants to start? Maybe Andrei is going to start. I believe that only Vladimir Zelensky and his consultants have this answer, because any aim that has any relation to surveys or direct democracy, it cannot be reached by those methods. Even at the stage of planning, it cannot be reached. I do not want to believe that the president allows himself to just raise his rating of his political force. I reject this idea at once. I cannot understand the aim of this action. If this aim was honest and legal, then the ways were not correct. If it was illegal and dishonest, it should be on the conscience of this who organized this action. So the main aim, they said on the media, that they wanted to raise turnout, to mobilize Zelensky's electorate and his party. Do you believe this was the aim of this action? I believe, I agree with Andrei fully. The president and his people he spoke with, maybe they know the aim. I believe he wants to implement his pre-election promises and to carry out regular surveys. I like this idea, to ask people what they want to know about other people. We had such a project, Mirror of the Week. We asked questions. What would they ask if they were sociologists? And we chose most popular questions and asked these questions. But at in this case, this maybe didn't support this idea. This data will be difficult to use in order to say that this is opinion of the public or this is the opinion of the voters. What happened? Electorate of Zelensky was mobilized. We carried out a survey. We asked before this whether the probability that you come to polling station increase. 25% said the balance of those who said that it increases and decreases was 25%, and those who said that probability is high that they will come, 50 for Batkivshina and for 15, and for other parties 1 or 2 only. So maybe it a little increased a little bit turnout, but mainly due to Zelensky electorate. So this idea to survey population for election, this is not new and it is acceptable. But now we are speaking that this idea maybe was for 5 and implementation was for 2. We would like now to speak about methodology, about whether this survey is representative. Andriy, given the floor. As it was planned and implemented, we, and no one can say whether it was representative or about precision of the survey. In accordance with methodology, it was not representative survey. And this was not a referendum. We may say that there are separate examples. If we are speaking about direct democracy, there are 2 main approaches. For example, we are interested in the opinion of the whole population. Then each citizen of Ukraine, in this case 18 and up, they should provide answers in the survey, but we do not have this here. So survey was carried out among those who came to elections, and turnout, I believe, is the lowest, 37% only. 2/3 of population even theoretically couldn't provide answer to these questions of the survey. Second opportunity of influence, this is referendum. In this case, it is believed that those people who are interested, for whom it is important, they will come, and others' opinion will be not taken into account. So this is done when voters are counted, and during referendums it is done the same. But this was not a referendum. So there were auxiliary questions. They appeared suddenly, and it was voiced that they would not have a legal force. So this is not a referendum. It means that the majority, many people who had opinion on this, their opinion was not taken into account. And taking into account the situation with pandemic, people didn't want to endanger themselves. So this was not a referendum, even at the stage of planning. So no use, absolutely. I didn't check the quality of work of those who carried out the survey. And no one rejected the situation. They didn't select people. They didn't ask who wants to. They answered as many times as they liked. So in this case, we do not have any information about what these answers represent. We may say that this is nothing. Quality and results of the survey, they are not valuable. These are just some assumptions provided by some politicians that some issues are supported. So we could save a lot of time and money, huge money actually, and to provide them for fighting COVID, to support hospitals and Ukrainian doctors instead of holding such surveys. And not volunteers worked there, the work of those people was paid. And what is your opinion on this? And also in your publications, you've said that the survey is not representative because it covers only mainly the proponents of one pro-power party. It turned out that not everyone understands the difference between representative survey and the referendum. On Facebook, they discussed this about those volunteers who participated in the survey. Sometimes it happens also during referendum, but there is a difference. I fully agree with what Andriy said. Important difference is that during referendum, people beforehand know that this data will have legal consequences. And here they said that there won't be any legal consequences. And also in referendum, they do it during some time. In different countries, it takes different time, half a year minimum or several months. In order to have discussions, everyone should be able to express their opinion or to carry out campaigns for some views. And if it is referendum, people would come. And in this case, this is not a referendum, this is just a survey. So people could stay at home. So this is not representative data on the whole for the population. For this, we should carry out a comprehensive survey. If we compare it with elections in 2019, three rounds of elections, error is several percent, up to 5%, 3% for the first round of elections. So this is not representative for those who came to polling stations. The main reason is that it was perceived as party survey. As a rule, sociological companies, they try those neutral companies. Even if some companies are affiliated with some party, there are doubts in their data, they are criticized, their data is scrutinized. All professional companies, I believe they work normally despite customers who ordered the survey. But there may be some questions about neutrality of their data. And in this case, it was initiated by the president in his party. That's why this survey about intent, it looks like the representatives of servant of people, they were proportionally 2 times more than among the population on the whole. And the European Solidarity, they had much less. A rating company also carried out a survey, and they have shown real figures. This correlation was even more contrast. The European Solidarity 3 times less, 3 times less, and the People's Servant of the People Party twice more. So proportionally, it was much lower. So the error would be about 20% or 30%. It even hard to say. And in exit poll, the error is about 2%. And if error is 20 or 30%, this is not, we cannot use this data. This data is not useful, and we cannot tell whether they are representative for some parts. So, for example, I believe that there is no big sense in this, because everything else increases this error so much. So these details, they do not influence much. During exit polls, we are trying to survey all the people, and each rejection is a threat that people did it not because of coincidence, not because of the sentiments, but because of some of the characteristics, and they increase the error. In many polling stations, people were not trying to cover all people, and that's why these volunteers, regular volunteers, they become desperate volunteers. Those people who are really interested in the survey. This influence of party affiliation, it increased drastically.
Let us try to qualify and understand what it was. It was neither exit poll nor referendum. Perhaps it was a survey, a questionnaire. But we even cannot call this a systemic survey. This was a questionnaire asked to some specific people randomly willing to answer. Perhaps it was just the opinion collecting or information public awareness campaign. In my opinion, it could be done cheaper and having looking at the number of polling stations near which that so to say survey was held. I do not think that this is a representative, even informational campaign. I believe that any professional survey commissioned from any professional organization might be done 10 times cheaper, and addition from the interlocutor 100 times cheaper. So this was about the representation of the sample, and now about the answers and the questions. It seems to me that the questions were a bit intricately formulated, and in my opinion, some percentage of answers had been lost. In some questions, it is possible to answer yes or no, but here we face the ideas of people, how they understand each question. When we mean any free economic zone somewhere in Donbass region, of course, average Ukrainian citizen may either support or non-support to such an abstract idea. But if we try to imagine any consequences for the decision making at the governmental or presidential level, then there's answers yes or no are not informative enough to support drafting of any legislation on that topics. The difference made by the referendum allows to discuss which territory we mean exactly. What does the free economic zone at this specific territory actually mean? What does it mean free? What does it mean economic? And what does it mean zone in specific context? And when there is a referendum on such a question, for example, then everybody going to the referendum is aware what is meant under the specific economic zone. The same is true about each question in that survey. I suspect that many people, maybe half of the respondents, may not even know what is cannabis, and that perhaps many people do not know that this is the concentrated compound, chemical compound of the plants and which are grown in Ukraine, and the same is true about the question about life sentences for the biggest corruptioneers. And I'm sure that sociological organizations like Razumkov Centre, Kyiv, etc., they definitely know that people in vast majority stand for the punishment for corruptioneers, but I'm not sure about life sentence, and I'm not sure about the order of putting these questions. Maybe it intentionally was put the first in the list of questions, and like with any survey, the answers of respondents should answer specifically the question which was posed. In this very specific situation, we see that an attempt to develop grounds for further actions of politicians or potential actions for the actions of politicians. We clearly see that many people, absolute majority maybe of respondents, were unable to understand the questions and the consequences. And when it comes to any public opinion that has to back up the decision making at the governmental level, then we should follow specific procedures. Some people believe that this opens a possibility for the manipulations. How do you comment? How would you comment on them? I have no negative comments as to the questions themselves, but the difference is that these are questions, how they are formulated. They are not, they should not be addressed to general public. They should be addressed to experts, particularly in those issues. And I also disagree with the fact that the party symbols, party logo was used for that. The answers as to the free economic zone, we did not code the answers because we had no clear understanding what the authors had meant under free economic zone. Nevertheless, the two-thirds of respondents also haven't understood the question, and they tried to answer following just words. Free is good for people to be free. Economy should be, etc. And if we try to move to Europe, towards Europe, there are some values, there are moral norms that we should respect. If we would ask people whether corruptioners should be hanged in the streets, we also might get a big number of positive answers even to these terrible questions. So this only illustrates my idea that the same questions, they could exist in that language, but they had to be asked to the experts. And now let's discuss the threats coming from similar initiatives which might be taken by people in power in the future. What are the lessons which we could learn from this precedent, and what negative consequences we might have? In my opinion, one of the possible consequences might be as follows. The competence to make decision in any of the issues falls within the powers of the current people in power, either the president or the majority in the parliament, and they may pass any piece of legislation they want. So the consequence which might expect is as follows. Any question which is inadequately perceived either by people or by president, MPs, etc., might raise disputes in the society, and I have a bit of concern that if we tolerate and agree the results of this, so to say, survey. In the future, we may see the similar surveys posing even less popular questions to people. For example, you may the authorities may initiate a survey about pre-border territories. Actually, there is a threat that the democratic procedures might be substituted with this pseudo survey, and actually anything could be done in the future. It's like a black box. You never know what is inside. You cannot see what's inside in the black box. You can check that, and in the future that black box may contain any questions the power wishes. If this becomes a precedent, but not just a mobilization action for the electorate, then if this becomes a precedent, this might become a real threat. May we expect for the legislative initiatives based on that survey, all the project supporters, project organizers, as of now, should understand that the project failed. It was neither a sociological survey, it was neither a public opinion poll, nor it was a referendum, and we only may hope that perhaps this will not be used to back up the position of the president. But if the president is interested in promoting any of those items which were brought to the attention of respondents, then he should take responsibility upon himself. I do not see any threats with this survey because it does not worsen the situation against the situation with the referendum. Almost each year I keep writing an article about imperfections of our law on referendum, and which discusses in much detail how the ballots should be casted and how they should be delivered to the counting points, etc. But there is no instructions in our law how the questions should be asked. While formulating the question, you may predict the answers to it. So in this new law on referendum, just like it was with two previous laws, the power can manipulate with public opinion. The president once mentioned that about Budapest memorandum. The question doubtfully will be recognized by the international experts, and this is bad. I have heard even such an opinion that all the surveys, all the exit polls after elections should be banned because this is a sort of manipulation, and I am a bit concerned that if this is accepted and introduced into practice, then we might turn into Russia or Belarus. where surveys are entrusted to only those organizations who have the reputation that they are able to provide the best result for the power. Well, in this case, may we imagine that in future the direct democracy could be implemented via smartphone button, smartphone key, and that this might become the uncontrolled, totally uncontrolled process, whether there should be fears that such thing may happen in result of that survey. We should keep in mind that that big part of Ukrainian population doesn't have access to internet either through mobile connection, smartphone connection, or via internet services. While in 2014 there were much discussions about a transit server where the results of elections could be distorted, and I think that the same concerns persist today, when you cannot guarantee that the server which has to collect the results of digital voting is totally protected from distortions. In these circumstances, you cannot rely on digital voting. I believe that digitalization is a good thing, and it may be very beneficial for the government, for the population, but it's too early to substitute offline elections in Ukraine with online elections. I like the idea of digitalization. I like the idea that the state in a smartphone is a good idea, but the issue is how this will deal with public opinion and public awareness. If this is about surveys of broad masses, population, which have neither smartphones nor internet, and keep this in mind. This is one thing. If that service would be organized based on the idea that all people have smartphones and computers with internet, then this is quite different thing. And the biggest danger is in the fact that many people do not understand some things, and they are not ready to recognize this publicly, and it's easier to them to say just yes, answering the question which they do not answer. A good example is the old Kuchma's referendum about the two-chamber parliament, when people just answered yes, not knowing what does it mean. So this illustrates that much depends on the organizational aspects of a survey or referendum. Okay, if the government wishes to know public opinion, how they should do it, whether they should take this information from opinion polls or they should do something else. If the authorities wishes just to find out what the opinion is, then an ordinary research done by the experts is enough. Usually this is or this could be a public opinion poll survey carried out by experts, and this will be very informative and reflect the actual situation. If the government wishes to take into account, or better to say, the government wishes the people to make decision like it happens with the referendum, then formulation of the question for referendum is critical, and it is absolutely needed to clarify and explain to people what actually is meant. And you should guarantee that people are not forced or pushed to answer in a specific way. For example, we may recollect the referendum of 2004 when there were so long questions that people were unable to understand what it was about. To know the public opinion, it is sufficient to commission a survey from one sociological company, and what you can do, you may commission such a surveys on the same topic from several sociological centers, and appoint an arbitrator between them, so to say, a democratic initiative as a center. For example, the exit poll results done by well-established sociological centers are trusted even more than the election results counted by the Central Election Committee. If the decision splits 50-50 between the respondents, but and in this case you may go forward with the referendum, but in my opinion it is useless. I recollect the idea of Poroshenko and Zelensky about NATO membership and how this was postponed. In my opinion, in this situation, it is useless to have referendum. It will more split the society than unite it. Thank you, gentlemen. I now and then check my smartphone to follow up the questions to you in our social networks. So the first question from our spectators. Now each political force in each region may announce such a survey to promote their political ideas. Whether you believe that this threat may arise?
If this is political force, let's say so, we had such a situation, maybe not connected with some ideas, but during elections, often we face a situation when allegedly sociological organizations, even if they are registered, they do not carry any activity. Even bad survey is costly. Why would they spend this money? There was a popular among Ukrainian political forces such a thing to publish fake ratings to promote their party or their candidate. It works a little bit different, but no one knows. So methodologies are similar. Ukrainian political forces, unfortunately, used often they have some sort of a tradition in this. If there is a threat, there is a threat of the use of technologies by state bodies. And if we are speaking about parties, yes, they may use this unfair sociology, and this technology has been used for a long time. In this case, we were speaking about such initiatives as Ukrainian Choice, maybe, or other surveys and pseudo-referendums about joining of Oblast of Ukraine to some other countries, maybe initiatives like this. There is such a threat, I say, but there is a threat if local bodies of power, if they are interested in such methods about political forces, for example, Ukrainian Choice, they use different methods until 2014. Vladimir, would you comment on this? So we have this. People print such data without carrying out surveys. Balchevsky data, it differs among the sociological companies 20 or 30%, and it is impossible if you carry out real survey. So they use such a technology. I believe that the criticism for this exit poll that this will show that this data does not provide a lot, but we hope for positive influence. About awareness of people and about disillusionment among people after they were confused in such a way. One more comment. The president didn't want to ask something, he wanted to say something by the survey. So this is a philosophic argument. Maybe you will comment on this. And I ask journalists who are here in the hall to ask questions. If you have questions, please raise your hands and introduce yourself. So about this argument, what can you say? It is difficult for me to say what this person wanted to say. It is really probable that there is a mobilization effect on the electorate. So this is like information campaign. Maybe he implements his pre-election promises. This comment is right. Maybe he wanted to do this, and at the same time he wanted to ask people who have experience, who know something about sociology, studied it in universities. Maybe they do not understand the purpose of this research. Maybe he honestly didn't understand the drawbacks of this organization of survey. And I'm surprised that no sociologists were invited to the survey. And do you have questions? There are no questions. Thank you for being with us, for finding time. I believe that your agenda is really tough now because of events that are going on. And it is of value that you joined us and explained such important things to people, to our viewers. And materials will be provided to broad circles of people. UCMC always joins such initiatives. We may say that this is educational campaign. So we end press briefing. Thank you for being with us here and online. Once again, I would like to thank our speakers for being with us today. Thank you. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.